You're hearing a lot of me today. Welcome back for your lunch session. If you want to engage and chat and discuss or raise any issues, you're more than welcome to check the WhatsApp group in the description below this video. We're going to be talking strictly street. And while I'm going to leave that open for interpretation, I'm going to give my logic and my expectations. And if you disagree, please, you are more than welcome to comment. You are more than welcome to join the chat. The chats are open for subscribers only, so please do subscribe if you want to engage, and please do subscribe if you like. And if you don't want to subscribe, you are more than welcome to join the WhatsApp group and chat there and raise the point, and I will incorporate it into what we have going here. Let me first get something out of the way. Let me have a swig of my karate water. So I mentioned earlier and in the previous podcast and sort of sessions today that I was at the Western Cape Government / City of Cape Town sort of public meeting, and it was more one-on-one session with the individuals you wanted to engage with. I'll just get my headphones on here because there's people sending me messages and voice notes, and I have no idea what relevance to where. So let me listen and try and multitask, which is going to fail miserably because no one in the world can multitask. But yeah, I had interesting, as I mentioned before, discussions with Mr. Mackenzie, not Gayton, for Sports, Arts and Culture, the Shadow Minister here in the Western Cape, to highlight motorsport. And to be fair with you, they were, discussing indigenous sports. And I, without trying to be condescending, commented, "You're talking about like Kenichi and things like that." And they kind of agreed and shook their head and so on. But I just had to table the motorsport fraternity and the fact that we are a rugby, cricket, soccer, not a rocker, and motorsport nation. And I don't mean to marginalize any other sports like netball or baseball or all these other things, you know, um, because our constitution is quite clear: freedom of association, and that can be applied and interpreted in many different ways. So who am I to have funding taken from one for our cause? That's not the point. The point is we need to reevaluate our spend, is the ultimate point. And that's something bigger than just a Gayton McKenzie or a Ricardo McKenzie or a Dominic Williams or a WPMC or an MSA or WAMSA or KZN Motor Racing, KZN Drags or 011 Street Society or 041 Street Society or whoever. It's a holistic view, and that's why I said this all comes down to education, you know. And I mean, to highlight Mr. McKenzie, and I'm talking Gayton now, his approach of canning the superfans is an example. For what are we spending millions sending a handful of people who are benefiting and taking advantage of the privilege, where there are so many people that can't even afford food for the week? They can't feed their family, they can't feed themselves. And here we are, lekker living it up at the Olympics, one or two people, or lekker living it up at the World Cup. For the sake of what? For appearances, because we are so emotional that we can't not have our president at the final. Even if we're in the final, we win it. Are we that weak? But we can save that for another discussion. This is about my plans, affectionately called Strictly Street. And you'll notice I posted an email to my surprise that I got from the representative in Alderman Smith's department when I spoke to him last night as well at this City and Western Cape government get together. And he's, at least done as promised, which I can appreciate. That's all I'm asking for. If you make a promise, deliver on the promise. And he said last night he will speak to JP Smith this morning, today, and he will try and set up a meeting. And there you have it. I posted it on the channel, and I'll read it out to you. It says, "Hello, Raisa. Would it please be possible to assist with scheduling a meeting between Alderman Smith and Dominic to discuss street racing events, road closures for racing, etc." So now, this is all I've been asking for and waiting for. And some of you may know I've been engaging with JP Smith. He's been responding, but he's just been avoiding. And whether that's a poor excuse or whether he's now really been busy, I don't know. But like I told the MSA chairman recently, no one is that busy. If you can't even keep track of your role, then you need to vacate your post. Now, MSA only caters to a portion of, the population. The safety and security portfolio for the Western, or for Cape Town, doesn't even cater to the entire province. It caters to a small section within the province, being this district in Cape Town. And while, the alderman is busy, no one is that busy, but I will give him the benefit of the doubt because his portfolio is actually huge. Maybe he's come to realize that, that's great. At the end of the day, I'm not going to hold that against him. I'm also not going to accept it blindly, put it to you that way. So, to that end, we'll see when this meeting date comes up. And you're all invited to make contact via my channel or my number, 0662198349, and let me know what it is you would like me to raise. I have my list of agenda topics. JP has an idea of it. A few years ago, he himself, in fact, suggested we can close the street. And I said, look, it's not just that I'm looking for. There's many other aspects to this that needs to be put in place. So I need your genuine buy-in to get involved and help move the recreation and the sport forward positively. Not just as a gimmick or a stunt or a once-off, or not to dupe the public into overnight things. There's clearly a lot of people that are very impatient, and I just dealt with that now in one of the groups as well. And it's nothing against you. I'm not going to mention your name, but I've had a lot of people say it without actually thinking before they speak. So again, no intended malice. It's just I think people think these things can happen overnight. Now, as for the event, and I would love to see someone take this and, start posting about it online and talking about how they're going to do it as well, and whatever the case may be, you're more than welcome to. At the end of the day, the intellectual property is and has always been in my head, and that is why Street to Strip ended up going the way that it went. And I can say that convincingly because we hardly have it anymore. We've got something else in its place. The plans and the development program gave way to greed and money, bottom line. So, in the beginning of all of this, the hopes, and I'm going to go back to 2008, 7, and earlier. The hopes was to get more people to the track. And that was always the plan. More so when I started competing under the flag and the banner of MSA at Killarney. But the minute I did that, I started seeing problems. Worse problems than the problems I saw racing on the street, which is what pushed me to the track. And I mean, I'm no stranger to running from the cops. You know, I've got many instances where I just did a U-turn and a cop assumed we were going to race, and on came the lights, and I was like, cheers, bro, I'm not waiting for any hooting, I'm gone. And I was missing the whole night to be asked by, bro, where are you? I'm in Paul, bro. In fact, I'm past Paul, I'm through the Huguenot Tunnel, I'm here in Worcester. Serious Toast Rivier, I'm somewhere taking a drive to get the adrenaline out of my body and enjoying the car at the same time. Or if you remember 3 lane, where there was still a shell, escaping the cops by driving down the wrong way of the road, down arterial, gone. So I'm not going to claim responsibility for the ghost squad coming about. I'm surely not the first person to try and escape the cops and succeed. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't. I'd probably be singing another song like so many others that got caught. That I don't know what their aim is. To highlight their struggle. They struggled. They had a BMW and they were racing it on the street, and they struggled, and now they're racing on circuit. That is not the story or the reality out there. I mean, I consider myself privileged. I'm not vulnerable by any means, especially not when it comes to motorsport. I've managed to enjoy and see and experience things that millions of people will never, unfortunately. And I'm confident that when this project that I've been busy with for 16 years, 9 of them being just slow, tedious, tumultuous background work, I'm sure that all of us will benefit. Not even just many, all of us. And I say that because if you don't benefit, it's only because of your own doing, because you're not willing to put in the effort. So, with there being no development within street to strip, and with the sights on the luxury, the niceties, and not taking into account the necessities, that's kind of where I severed my ties. And I'm not interested in wasting my time, because I'm going to make myself sick trying to convince you guys about doing the right thing and the most logical things from a business point of view, from a return business point of view. And you clearly don't want that, so cheers. And for those who don't know me that long, who only know me for the last 5-6 years, they also know that when I say I'm doing something, I do it. And it may not take a day or two, like some ignorant have said before in the past, a year or two ago. Where that leaves them, only they will know. I don't care. I've moved on. I've just marked you as a small blip that you will be ignored. And if you choose to engage, that's of your own doing. I won't stop you, but you will be marked. So, with that said, and with sort of COVID coming around and providing all of us with the opportunity to either do nothing and complain, or find something, or focus on things that we haven't had the chance to complete. We've now ended up with what I'm revisiting and have slightly modified, because my approach was always to give a hand up, not so much a hand out. And that is how I started or restarted this. And I reached out to many, most notably KZN Motor Racing, Cass Moodley and team, and they were welcoming, which was a surprise to me because that's not something I experienced here at home. I'm going to be blunt. And I'm going to mention names. And I phoned him up and I said, Cass, you know what? I've been watching you for so many years. I've had one or two opportunities to get a glance at what you've done. I would have loved to have been involved and seen more of it. But, you've organized this on the street before. So you know what is needed in terms of policy, process, procedure. And that's coming off a meeting with City that obviously just went horribly wrong. At every angle, it was, why do you want to race on the street? But there's Kilani. You can't race on the street. Yeah, but what are you going to do about this? And I'm going to dig deeper into that in a moment, but that's exactly the problem that we have here in Cape Town. And I explained to Cass, I said, City, met with him, and I was thankful that all the stakeholders were in the meeting. The boardroom was full. There was an Teams call or meeting in process with other people that were in other offices in that meeting. I still don't have minutes of that meeting, which is a bit annoying. But it seems to be the trend among City and WPMC. So, he basically said, look, we've obviously had our struggles over the years. We've managed to run events successfully. And, he's got a new venue that they're working on, because they've also run into some issues thanks to the recent happenings with Gupta Gate and so forth, and access to military airfields or air bases, air force bases and so on. And admittedly I had the same issues, because I phoned around and spoke, and I'll dig into that a little bit deeper as well. And he invited me to come up, and I've said this before, that's kind of where this channel got its foothold. If not for that weekend, this channel would still be on hold waiting for City to pull their finger out of their arse. And I say this, and people are going to take offense. I shouldn't take offense, because there are some, unfortunately, a few, that are there to do good, when the majority are just there to pull a wage, waste our tax money, complain, moan, find excuses why they can't do their job, instead of actually adding value. And I've quite had enough of it. And this is kind of where the 1st of October is looming, has come from, and has resulted in what you are experiencing now. So, with all these challenges, he said that he engaged with someone who was meant to come, and they aren't able to. I don't even know to this day who that was. But I took the opportunity and the invitation and used it as an opportunity to escape the Western Cape for a weekend at least, and go and see what's happening on the other side of the country. Because in my mind, we are all in South Africa. Although we are in different provinces, the same rules should apply, or are there new rules, as we just discussed an hour ago. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't take into account that I'm not in my 20s anymore, so I can't do a straight 2,000 kilometer run and do that at an average of 100 or 120 and make it there in a day. So I unfortunately, not knowing where my accommodation was in terms of actually having been there before, it took me a lot longer than expected, and with some confusion thanks to me relying on Google Maps, which just renewed my focus in using my brain instead of being a sheep and following along with a system that were made by professionals who could most likely be bad at what they're doing. I ended up getting there at a very ridiculous time. So I missed out on the first day of proceedings and got there late afternoon when the weather started to change for the worse. But managed to get a feel for the happenings, and I was pleasantly surprised to see so little from an operational standpoint, managing to run so smoothly. And every competitor, although not 100% compliant in terms of their action and their approach and, whatever it may be that is required of them on their part, the event flowed smoothly. Managed to chat a bit to Cass and team, meet some of the guys, and me being me, just, do you mind if I record? Do you mind if I go live? All of these things, and that's how this whole thing started. But for me, it was just to say, well, okay, this can work. Just us, races only. Spectators, you can enjoy from home. Whoever's here is crew. You are fortunate enough to be here in person. And that's how it went. I left it. And then Cass, mentioned to me that he's having another event. It's private, but, I asked if I could come. That was really the first event that I managed to experience in full in December of 2021. And I think that same weekend there was Saldanha drag event, which had some very strange events and incidents. And it's all good information. It's not maybe a good occurrence, but the information is good because it allows you to think about what you may not consider. It just gives you a different perspective and further insight. So, dealing with that in 2021, and because of the failures of City to actually listen and digest and ask questions instead of being oppressive, that resulted in me going to a totally different province, 3 provinces away, because I'd have to travel either through Eastern Cape to KZN, which was a bit risky, or travel through the Northern Cape, Free State, KZN, to get there. And if in hindsight, if City was more forthcoming, I wouldn't have had that exposure, that insight myself, to be able to see that I don't need the City. Who are they in the grand scheme of things, given our constitution? And I keep bringing it up because that's the reality. Decisions were made because of a ridiculous few, and access to certain venues was removed and taken away from all of us. But how does that serve the greater good? And that's something we can argue in court, if it needs to go there. But that was literally City's stance. You can't do this. Do you have permission for this? Why do you want to do this? Absolutely nothing of positive value. Maybe that's just the individuals, but unfortunately those individuals make up the departments, and that makes up our government structures, and in turn results in the systems our governments use. As far as I'm concerned, that's beyond oppressive, because as we are sitting here in time, it is moving on and we are just losing it. We could have. And that's constantly what we end up saying. Oh, we could have done this, we could have done that. And when we have people trying, we shoot them down. And if I was a normal individual that just accepted things and was a slap neck, as I said the other day, then we wouldn't have what we have. I wouldn't be proud of what I've produced here from scratch. Never mind the platform. What I've built with the help of you, and I thank you for that. I'd be sitting here waiting to this day if I didn't decide, you know what, the hell am I sitting here waiting for City that's sending me on a wild goose chase? And they did. Intentionally or unintentionally, the fact is they did. Terence, the head of the eventing committee, I don't know if he still is because he retired and they recalled him, and he's probably now working there as a retiree because they have no one else to hand over to, because it's just the same old government with new democracy paint. Where's the actual continuity? Where's the actual value? It's just funds blown in excess. And like I said, those are the only things that asked. Are you here on behalf of Spin? Is what was mentioned. And Spin is involved with this Honsabas because I approached Shaim years ago and I said, hey, you know what? I've got this idea. This is what I want to do. But I'm not by any way or means an organizer for spinning. I've got experience with the operations for drag racing through street to strip. I can understand the needs of the racer as a racer. I love spinning as a spectator. I have no idea how to run operations, nor do I know from a competitor's point of view. And engaging with Eddie, engaging with the guys that I remember from spinning back in the day at the old Kraaifontein pitch. Not this new one opposite the school. In what's it, Scottsdene or Scottsville or wherever it is there. And we had a discussion. I went to his place of work. He was thankfully not out on a call or he was idle on duty. So we had a lengthy discussion about what it is that I see, the vision I have. And I'm not going to debate and say, oh, he took an idea and what I thought up and he ran with it. People do what they want to do. I can't control that. All I'm going to say is actions have consequences. And he put me in touch with Johnny Bravo, as I know him, Johnny Spin Master, to discuss his challenges with City over the years and the organization's challenge. So I'm getting back to the point where I've always approached this from a hand up point of view. Give you the opportunity to do more, achieve more. And it's only after speaking to Shaim and to Johnny, and him too, he was invited, or I was invited to get him at his place of work in town, and we had a merry old chat about what I want to do and the bigger picture of what I have in mind, and that is to incorporate not just the motorsport aspects, but aspects that can actually add value. And I don't mean activations like sound offs and show and shines and the usual that we've been doing and seeing for all the years, and how I understand that compared with how people see it today. I mean actual value in terms of educational opportunities, career opportunities, actual growth and development within the community. And it's when I spoke to Johnny and Shaim, and most notably Johnny, that I realized what I was maybe doing wrong. I'm already at the finish line and everyone is here at the start line. And I may have jumped the gun, but no one can see what I see. And that's, how's that my fault? If the people I'm trying to deal with are incapable of seeing the bigger picture. Should I de- not degrade, but should I downgrade my capabilities to match that? I'm sorry, I can't do that. I know where we are headed with this. I know what needs to be done. If I can't find the suitable people, I'll do it myself, and that's what's been taking so long. And we'll get into all of that. It's about to get very real. So, it was Johnny that actually explained to me what spin means because I didn't know. He told me, "Do you know what spin stands for?" And I was like, "I have no idea." And he's the one that told me it stands for support people in need. And that blew me away. And I see it being used a lot more now. The full meaning, not just the acronym, spin. That blew me away. And he said, that's why, we do this. And at our events, we try and feed the community. And I resonated with that. I respected that. It's not what my path was on for this. But after speaking to Johnny, I can safely say that, I've missed the whole point of the handout. And it comes back to what they say, you can't teach a hungry child. You can't teach anyone or offer them any opportunity if they are hungry. Their basic needs need to be met. Their survival. Those needs need to be met. You're not going to get anything out of anyone if they can't even breathe, if they have no water, they are thirsty, or if they are hungry. That's what they're focusing on. And not that I changed my approach, I saw that and I said, you know what, that makes it even more ceremonious, if you will, that we work together because you focusing on that, I can support that. But we can look to bigger pictures, to the bigger picture, because I believe that we can return our country to greatness through education. Now, just to digress a bit, that's where I don't agree with Kate and Mackenzie. And if you are a political follower and you understand what I mean, then great. If you don't, read the manifesto of the Patriotic Alliance and you'll understand why, as a politician, I don't necessarily trust the man. As a public servant in his office, I will give him his opportunity to prove me wrong because his approach will be based on his belief. And that's been evident within these 100 days that he will be reporting on next week. So, just to come back to the point here, I firmly believe that we could work together and have your own things. This event is going to be mine, but I would really like you to come on board and run with that. So you run the spinning. You and Shaim or whoever is within that organization, you run the spinning. I would like to involve drifting. I would like to involve as many disciplines as possible, and the proposed space is for Santa Graal Airfield, which was recently purchased by Rob Hersoff and rebranded, Cape Winelands Airport. And for some of you that know, that was where the Mother City Raceway was meant to be, which, from what I can see, having walked and surveyed the area, never happened. So, then we can discuss that topic if anybody wants to down the line. And I welcome John Brussels, to engage, which he hasn't, although he's promised to. And technically, we are past that now, unfortunately. But if if he wants to, he's welcome to engage and discuss the matter and set the record straight or give his version. This is Cape Town. People tend to just keep secrets. So, that venue, I said to Johnny and to Shaim, caters to everything. Quarter mile drags at least, drifting, and there's a space that we can use for spinning. It may need some work, and the owner is looking to demolish that whole area, but that gives us free rein to do with it what we want, in my opinion. It may take some work, but we can get it for at least a year or 2 years. And they were on board with that in principle. I'll say that. And I maintain that, this needs to take the form of an event that caters to the real world, to the community, to us as South Africa. And that's only just recently become strictly street. But that's what it was meant to be. And I engaged, like I said, with those two, and Johnny and Shaim, either or both of them, suggested I speak to a gentleman by the name of Gary from Drift City. And this is where it's going to get very real. So I did. Me being me, let me talk to you. What's wrong with my people in this province? Only they know. The paranoia and the cynicism and the secrecy and the naargheid. It's just what my people is made up of, it seems. Not everyone, but the few that I've dealt with. And I went to Versantekral, spoke to the manager in charge of the facility on behalf of Rob as the owner. He liked the concept, he liked the idea, gave me the price, went and looked at the space. I went with their sort of operations officer, who I'd known from before with the previous owners, the De Langers. And he recognized me, and we chatted, and we went through the whole facility, and we tried to plan the ingress and egress, and surveyed the space, and I tested the space, and I invited a few individuals to come along, most notably SVN, Jason James, and a few clients. Some made excuses, some declined, one came out, Tuna himself came out, which I was appreciative of. And that for me was really a way to see someone's character, because constantly people make excuses. Oh, I had this come up. Oh yeah, I couldn't do it. And those are the people I'm wary of. I don't take note. Once you have an excuse, that is it. That's how you are most likely saved in my phone. Makes excuses and your details. So I know when you message, you're a waste of my time. I'm not even going to read it, or listen to it, or even entertain it, or even respond. And, I got in touch with Razik as well, from Drift Outlaws, to say, this is what I'm planning to do. I'd love it if you come on board and you run with your section. I don't want to take hold of your section. You have something going, you run with it. I'm just saying I'm going to make a space available for you to bring you guys so you can get seat time. I'm busy, I'm not in the country, and next minute it became, I like this idea, what is it going to be based on? I'm like, street cars, and aim is to make a space available, and I don't have the time, I'm so busy. And that's how it kind of led to, somehow me getting in touch, or Cape Town Alive getting in touch with me. And wanting to do an interview because of some issue that happened with the spinners being outraged at the lack of access to Killarney as a facility, and boycotting the track and closing the entrance and creating a ruckus and ending up on ETV, and them asking me my opinion. I said, well, what do you want me to say? And insisting I come on this show, and me saying, what's the point? Where's the value add? I don't see it. Having looked at a few samples and just seeing the gat mark, which tends to be a theme here in Cape Town, and the lack of actual seriousness, and the lack of unity, but the call for unity. Ons moet saam staan, maar ons staan in ons eie hoekies. And this, focus on friends and the few who are aligned, and not very much any other opportunity for openness and transparency to engage with anyone else, unless to maybe set them up in some sort of trap. And again, I can't be in control of what people do. All I can say is there are consequences for actions. And to all those that have tried to do bad, that's where I'm going to leave it. You evaluate your life and you see if you've really made positive change, really added true value and made a difference, and how your life has been impacted by it. That engagement with Cape Town Alive resulted in a 1 or 2 hour phone call, which may or may not have been recorded. That's entirely up to the individuals how transparent they wish to be. I honestly don't care. And the interview never happened, even though they asked me to agree and begged me to agree and insisted I agree and almost guilt me into agreeing. To be fair, eventually saying, yeah, let me see what's up, because it will benefit me as well, to understand how you're actually broadcasting all of this for other things that I have in place or in process or planned, which is kind of this channel. And I need to have an excuse. Oh, something came up. Yeah, whatever. So, with Razik not really being forthcoming and willing to collaborate, which seems to be the situation in Cape Town with whoever, organizer, promoter, collaborator, creator rather, content creator, and so forth. I took Johnny's advice and got in touch with Gary. I was like, okay, well, this Oak runs something called Drift City. I've never been to it. I've watched it. I enjoy it. I don't really see any local drifting that is truly drifting, as in pure drifting. It's, for me, based on a foundation of spinning. And the disciplines are sort of interlinked in this country: spinning, drifting, and gymkhana. Also something that I enjoyed viewing. So, I said, well, let me chat to Gary. All right, get in touch with Gary, Drift City, and try and give him the concept and what it is that I expect. And, I'd love it to come on board to do the drifting side. So whoever wants to, I don't need to do that. That's not where my focus is, but who am I to exclude that, because people might not like drags all day and now they can go and watch the spinning or the drifting, variety. So again, I'm not going to lay claim to all these events, multidisciplinary events that have happened. I am happy to consider it part of a 100th monkey theory. I'm not claiming to be the first monkey. I'm certainly part of those 100. And it came about how it did. Still not entirely my concept. All that you've seen occurs just a fraction of what I have planned. And it will stay that way until I can find the appropriate people to partner with. And if I can't, it will wait until I have the appropriate amount of funds to do it myself. And you're more than welcome to participate or not. So Gary, chose violence instead of peace by saying that, everyone he ever came across was a snake. And that just immediately triggered me. And I'm sitting here going, I don't know you. I don't know any of you guys personally. I've heard of some of you, but I've come to you man to man to deal with you face to face, to engage with you on a level of understanding that we can do something here for everyone that can benefit us all. And here you've got this arsehole turning around and telling me, oh, everyone he's ever dealt with is a snake. Now, snakes usually say that, in some way or form of projecting to detract or distract from their actions and doings, and to make you feel some way or to get some ridiculous point across. Snakes. I was like, my guy, I don't know you, you don't know me, but if that's how you're going to start this, then I don't want to deal with you because then I'm dealing with a snake. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. I'm just beyond annoyed. And I'm very sure I used many expletives to convey my anger and annoyance at the ignorance and the arrogance of this intelligent young being. And I was like, you know what? These guys are all just clearly not interested in collaborating, or they want to do it themselves and they just haven't had the means, or they now see an opportunity to do it, or many other reasons. And I just said, well, you know what? In that case, if Razik isn't interested, if Gary isn't interested, Shaim and Johnny still appear interested. They haven't said anything in contradiction to this, or they haven't said anything to give me any reason that there isn't an opportunity to engage. And I didn't even consider Nazi back then. I mean, Race SA, what he was doing was his own thing, and great. I'm not doing that because I'm not trying to flash fancy cars in front of everyone's eyes. I'm trying to say we've got everything we need to have something sustainable, and we work from there. To end up having to deal outside the province was disappointing for me. Not that it affected me, I didn't suffer, but it just proved to me that we don't have people that are actually here for us. They are here for themselves, or the small clique or group that they have. And that is evident because you've got all these factions and no one is willing to work with one another. Hopefully that day comes. I don't know when, and quite frankly I'm not going to waste my time wondering when, but I cannot go back on my beliefs and I cannot contradict my ways to accommodate people like that. So, I identified Razik was just a waste of time because it was constantly excuses, and Gary was a waste of time because he saw everyone as snakes in his own words. And if his words were wrong, he should have thought about them before he used them. Shaim and Johnny gave insight and some information, and with that is what I went to City with. And, with them assuming that I'm there as a representative of Spin confused me because I never at one stage mentioned, which means someone mentioned it. And I had to clarify in the beginning of that meeting, that let me just state clearly, I'm not here on behalf of Spin. I've engaged with them. I'm here for my own initiative, and I've invited them to come on board and utilize the space that would otherwise be inactive so that we can have alternate activities for patrons and for those that are, maybe done competing for the day and now want to go and watch some spinning, or they brought a spin car, so they're going to have some fun as well. And I mean, even up to that, I engaged with other providers as well who were skeptical because they've been burnt by City. They get requested to design things and do things. They do that. City takes it, finds someone else to do it, and there's the intellectual property down the toilet. And that's a gentleman that operates Shred, I think it is, in Pardon Island, who gave me that insight. So, armed with that insight about how City operates, the challenges in dealing with them, the ignorance and arrogance and the archaic thinking within those structures. That's how I went into my meeting. And I sat there and I said, what? I'm not saying let's boycott Killarney. I'm saying we need more than Killarney. One venue is not enough. And I said this in confidence given the history of Street to Strip and the fact that the numbers were there. It was proven. I have the sheets to show it. I mean, I sent you guys your times after the event, so I know. Only for City to turn around and say, no, well, there's Killarney. Why don't you go to Killarney? I said, well, okay, firstly, that's not going to work. And what's worrying me is the fact that you on this Killarney thing, which just leads me to believe that you've got interest there. Now, whether that's the 1.4 million that's been spent and subsequent funds after that, I don't know, and I don't have the numbers, and that should be something that's easy to insist City cough up and provide, through the Public Access to Information Act. Then I may just institute that, and then through the High Court, if they fail to comply, because it's your and my tax-paying money that's gone to an organization operating as a non-profit that is managing the public property, which technically belongs to all of us. It just happens to be enclosed. So, that meeting kind of went south, as I mentioned, because you can't race on the street, you can't do this, you can't do that. Why do you want to do this? Do you have permission? And it resulted in me actually saying, you know what? While we are here, you guys want to host Formula E in 2022, am I right? And it was like, yeah. And I said, well, that's not going to happen. And, it was sort of put to me that, is that a threat, or am I making some kind of, some kind of ill intent towards the event? I said, look, the bottom line is your concrete provider is my concrete provider, and all of the barriers that I've been told by them is not FIA approved means that they have to recast everything. So how are you going to recast that now for next year? It's impossible. It's going to take them probably the better part of 2022 to recast FIA approved barriers, which is what happened. And that is why your Formula E was postponed to 2023. Again, I'm not going to claim responsibility for that. Maybe I just, highlighted it. Maybe they were aware of it. They didn't take note of it and what I said and got them to take note of it. Whatever it may be. But it's this kind of thinking that is the hold up here. And as a result of that is why I ended up in KZN, to understand what it actually takes to get an event going. To go back to City and say, you bunch of pricks just sent me on a wild goose chase, because now I need to go. No, you need to be in the Northern's office and request zoning for the premises that you wish to utilize. And fine, I go ahead with that, only to find out that someone somewhere runs to the owner or the operator for the CWA and tells them that I'm intending to rezone their property. And it's kind of that point that I said, you know what, if all of this, we just need to keep it on the street. Because my proposal to City was, we need several venues, and they can take the form of airfields, can be sections of street, existing venues that we are using for street racing. I even said in that meeting openly, I'm a street racer. I've raced on the street. If you want to arrest me, arrest me. And I've mentioned it to JP Smith as well. But all these challenges just made me realize that the way that it has been done in KZN and the way that it is done in Kimberley is how we can do it here. The only difference is we need to get permission. So maybe someone runs with us and does that, great. I really don't need to be the one to do it, but I can guarantee you it will never compare to how I will do it. It will not be as enjoyable as me doing it. I can say that without a doubt. But armed with the information and a new way of thinking, thanks to Johnny and his organization, that, a handout needs to precede the hand up. It can't not exist, and it can't come after the fact. I kind of changed the approach, and I started to focus a lot more on people's needs. I mean, yes, we had a need for racing, but it's not really a need. It's a secondary need, if that. It's more a want. And it's all these things that culminated in me saying, you know what? And I understand the hand out. But I don't know how to operate a food kitchen. I don't know. I can buy food and maybe, you know, dish it out and hand it out. I can buy a loaf of bread and make peanut butter sandwiches and give it out. I can do what I can in that regard, but I'm ill equipped to do that. And so I supported some kitchens. And I never spoke about this because you don't speak about the good things you do. But I'm trying to give you context. So, I supported food kitchens. I bought product for food kitchens. Um, I bought ingredients that could be used when I saw things on special. I said, hey, instead of buying one, take 5, send it to the kitchen. Because of what was mentioned to me about, supporting people in need. So I took that to heart, and alongside that, this is what blossomed from it, the SK Racing, the Carnival Worldwide. A, a concept that had to take a step back because everyone else was, as far as I'm concerned, against it, or against it happening because they now wanted to do it, or for whatever reason. But at the same time, everyone was suffering. So instead of organizing events, I just went along to events that were happening and broadcast them, in a nutshell. I didn't expect it to grow as it did. I didn't expect it to explode last year as it did, in my opinion. Um, and those are all good things. I mean, the aim here for me was always 0.001%. With me focusing on South Africa and the supporters who I would hope would eventually reach the tracks once we said, you know what, it's now open for spectators. And that was only, 650 people, if my maths is correct. And it usually isn't because I'm very old. So, let me, 650 people. So I achieved everything I needed to last year. And thanks to a few guys like Said Figo, Said Kriel, I assume, who shared it, amongst others who shared it. Thank you. And I picked up expats along the way through word of mouth. That was perfect. I picked up people who had moved and immigrated to other countries who I had spoken to and who were in this country and enjoying it along with all of us because they couldn't leave Cape Town, to them still enjoying it now from a different continent. I'm appreciative. Where to next? You all know where this is going. We need to start with the next phases. I mean, I've held this channel back by insisting I want to reward the first 1,000 and first 2,000 when the numbers got out of control. And in a way, shooting myself in the foot, the channel, sabotaging it, and actually preventing more from benefiting through its production of content. So for that, I apologize. My intentions are good, were good, but the approach was clearly very wrong. And I won't make that mistake of doing that again, because that's when it becomes a mistake, not learning from it and just repeating it. And going around and being exposed to all these things and seeing it led me to what we have today, which is what's going to lead us up to what is going to be Strictly Street. And I thought I'd just give you some insight into what that is. And I mean, essentially, it's everything you can imagine. It's open for interpretation, as I've said and alluded to. And with that, I want to leave you with an open-ended discussion that we can pick up at another date and time. But I just felt, I need to get this out of the way because I'm sick of what I've seen the last 3-4 weeks. It's ridiculous. So thank you very much for taking your lunchtime and tuning in with me. And if you do like, please like. If you want to subscribe, please subscribe. And I will hear from you, see you, read what you have to say sometime again. We'll maybe do a part 2 to this to continue the discussion. Let's see how this goes down.